Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Appreciate all your support as always. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19 CC Sunday number 4. It's all starting to run together, folks. And in fact, I'm not sure when this is going to be up. I'm not sure if it's going to be a premiere as we've done, just because we actually have a game for the Indiana Fever around the same time. So I'm not sure when you'll see this. I'll try and make that decision. Maybe I'll put it before the game. One last thing before we get started, and I want to talk a little bit about the Fever season in general, what I've seen, what I think's happening and going to happen. And I wanted to ask, comment below about some version of the 19 as far as a t-shirt goes, just because I get those questions from time to time, but I never think that there's really that many people that would want one. As you know, we're not a 100,000 sub channel, but we're working on it, right? We're getting there. Um, all right, let's dig in. Let's talk a little bit about this season. Caitlin Clark has returned. Obviously, she's played a phenomenal game that everyone talked about against the Liberty. We had the brouhaha with the Connecticut Sun and that whole disaster, and then the absolute against the Golden State Valkyries. Caitlin Clark has to stop going soft when she plays Kate Martin. Right, come on, you step between the lines and the friendship ends there. Caitlin Clark, you can resume. It goes on pause. Okay, you can resume afterward. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I got to say, hey, I've been rewatching some of the season, and man, I hope this is one of those things we can look back on and say, hey, there was a bad take, CDS. What are you doing? But I'm just saying the Fever team right now, they look to be a little bit in trouble. Now, they have the talent that if changes are made, that's the key. I think they're going to be fine. They have the talent to right the ship, as they say, and go on an absolute tear just like they did last season when supposedly they had less talent and a worse coach. So if that team can go on a or score lots of points and win ball games and be exciting while it happens, I don't see why this team can't do the same. But it does, I gotta say, it does look bad when I look at how they've lost most of these games. Um, if the other team really comes out foot on the gas pedal, grinding, lots of effort, you know, causing problems, being physical, because we know the league's allowing that to happen. Caitlin Clark, they force her, or it just happens into, missing early. I think that's big when that happens, when they miss early, when Caitlin misses early, Steph White just bam, she abandons, and Austin did it as well, which, I mean, obviously he's running off of Steph White stuff, but they completely abandon any type of up tempo read and react offense that they might have run. It's gone. They get rid of it. They do exactly what the other team wants. They play exactly what into the hands of what the other team wants. Say, hey, you know what? We're going to abandon our strength. We're going to abandon what will win games for us. And we're going to play in a way that gives you a great chance of beating us. Crazy as it sounds, that's what happens. Steph White, she changes everything. She goes into an offense that just doesn't seem to work. She slows things down. Again, they head into an offense the other team wants to see. I talked about this before with Steph White in general and her comments, kind of how she basically is, even before the season started, kind of threw up the white flag in a way about be like, they want to stop Caitlin's strength, so we're not even going to try and take advantage of Caitlin's strengths. We're not going to coach them up in a way that allows us to utilize Caitlin Clark's strengths. We're just going to say, well, the other team wants to take those away, so we're just going to go to our weaknesses. The other team doesn't even have to actually stop her. But in reality, when they get on the court, and they do, unless Caitlin Clark's determined to do things her way, as soon as a few shots are missed early, that's it. It's a completely different team. This is why you've seen their shots per game absolutely plummet. They're taking fewer shots per game than they did last year. And come on, when the Fever slow things down, they're a completely different team, and not in a good way. When they move Kelsey Mitchell to point guard and put Caitlin Clark off the ball, or they bring in Sydney Colston and put Caitlin Clark off the ball, everything gets worse. They simply cannot score the basketball. And this vaunted defense, it was same thing like with Chrissy Sides, right? Defensive specialist, this vaunted defensive specialist Steph White, the defense isn't there, folks. It really isn't. It's not. It's got its moments, but it simply hasn't been that good. Caitlin, I mean, Caitlin is not a shooting guard. Yes, I know she can shoot and she can score and all that, but she does that much better as a point guard, not as a shooting guard. And Kelsey Mitchell is certainly better as a shooting guard and not a point guard. And the team as a whole, they don't have the playmakers. They don't have the playmakers other than Caitlin Clark to use Caitlin Clark off the ball, to use the gravity of a Caitlin Clark off the ball in some sort of positive way. And it is we see what's going on with the officiating and the way the other teams are playing it and everything. And I tell you what, it is a lot easier for the other team to take Caitlin Clark out of a game when she is off the ball. Caitlin Clark off the ball for long stretches is a disaster for this team. It's a disaster for Caitlin. That's when dumb decisions start happening. That's when her defense suffers because I think her head gets out of the game a little bit. She definitely struggles with when she's off the ball and not being involved. She's not the same player. And this coaching staff, I know I'm going to get the unsubs again every time I say something negative about Steph White, but I have not been impressed. They clearly do not trust Caitlin Clark to play through any early mistakes, to play through missing shots, to find a rhythm if she's missing early. And when you have someone who shoots the way Caitlin does, you need to do that. When she's missing early, she needs to keep shooting because she will eventually find a rhythm, but they are not allowing that to happen. Fewer touches for Caitlin. Caitlin becomes less engaged. Her defense suffers. The offense as a whole without Caitlin suffers. They don't have a good backup. I'm sorry, Sydney Colson is not a backup to Caitlin Clark. She should not be playing more than 10, 15 minutes a game since she is on the roster and has to play. How kept hearing how Stephanie White was going to be so great because of the she says nice things about Caitlin and she's watched her play for years. Well, it doesn't seem like she's watched her play for years. I really don't get how they've had 4 years. What 4 years of Caitlin in college? Didn't Steph White talk about seeing her in high school as well? Obviously, playing for the younger national teams as well. Winning 3 gold medals, MVP at U19. I mean, there is a lot of tape on Caitlin Clark to watch. And then we had the second half success last year with a very specific type of offense. And the coaching staff came in and said, no, no, we'll pass. We're not going to take that and improve upon it. We're not going to take what works and improve upon it. We're just going to scrap it. We're going to take away Caitlin Clark's strength. And we're just going to be a mediocre WNBA team that doesn't score a whole lot. And let's face it, we've talked about this before, like with the shots she was taking when Caitlin Clark was out. Aaliyah Boston simply is a different player. And I'm not knocking Aaliyah, okay? Don't get me wrong. It's not like, oh, I'm saying Aaliyah's not a good player when Caitlin isn't there, but she's not utilized properly without Caitlin. She becomes less of a player because of what her teammates do and don't do. Not necessarily because, although obviously Caitlin makes everyone better, but it's not a knock on Aaliyah Boston. She doesn't get the touches when Caitlin Clark is. So I should say even when Caitlin's in the game, right? Aaliyah Boston's not the same because Aaliyah doesn't get those touches, the same quality touches when Caitlin is the point guard. And I've said this before. I think Kelsey is the best, at least one of the best shooting guards in the league. But man, she is a Ugh, she's not a good point guard, let me put it that way. And yet they keep wanting to play her at the one. They keep wanting to do that. They keep wanting to put Clark off the ball. Um, it doesn't make sense. The success that they've had this season is a lot like last season with Christy Sides, where Caitlin Clark is finally said, you know what, I'm fed up with this. Get the rebound, give me the damn basketball. I'm going to push it. I'm going to force opportunities both for myself and the team. We're going to go up tempo. And when they don't do that, it's just a bad team. It is a bad, I hate to say it, but it is a bad team when they play against Caitlin Clark's strengths. Whether we like it or not, And it's nothing negative about the individual talent around her, but Caitlin Clark is this team. She is the engine, and that engine has to rev at a high pace, right? When she's on, like this team is unstoppable. When she struggles, the team is a wreck, and a lot of the struggle, and I don't mean when she's missing shots. I mean she's missing shots, and then they go away from the way they should play basketball when Caitlin Clark is on the court, and they go to this half court grind and they put her off the ball, and then the team looks absolutely terrible. It becomes they almost look disinterested. It was like the Golden State game. They look flat. Anyone who's ever played enough understand it's one of those things that's hard to describe, but if you've been through it, you know what I mean. You've probably observed it. Sometimes it looks like they're not trying, but if you've been through that yourself, you get it. You're out there, you're trying. It doesn't, it almost feels like you're moving in slow motion or quicksand. It doesn't really feel like you're in this competitive game. You might not even be able to be breaking a sweat, and that's how they look. And unfortunately, so much of how this team goes in a game is based on Caitlin's first few shots, especially if they're threes. If she hits early, right? If you get the type of stuff now, obviously that's an outlier in the just insanely good direction. But if you get the stuff you get with the New York Liberty game, yeah, forget it, man. If you get like the Valkyries and misses are early and then they go away from that offense, it is a completely different team. They've got to stick with their strengths. And unfortunately, to parrot Kelsey Mitchell in a post game video I did last, I know she was talking about the Valkyries game, but in general, with everything we've seen, we saw it in the Connecticut Sun game. It's kind of a soft team. It's kind of a soft team. I think it's a team wide issue in general. It's not necessarily just about like not protecting Caitlin Clark. They just don't seem to have that competitive fire other than a few of them. I think Lexi Hull has it. Sophie Cunningham has it. Um, I go back and forth on Aaliyah. I mean, she's such a good player, and I know she wants to win, but I don't know if she really has that oomph. It's just as a whole, the team, they don't seem to be willing to do what they need to do to win a championship. There's so many things that are part of that other than just being good. Obstacles that you have to overcome, adversity that you have to face and overcome, challenges, bad stretches, all that. Like championship teams, they learn to dig deep. They've always got another place to go to access what they need, regardless of circumstances, to allow them to compete and pull through. Right. And it doesn't seem like this team has it. And I wish someone just kind of proverbially grab them by the throat, shake them a little bit, and say, do you understand? Do you grasp the opportunity you have right now that you may never have again in your career? But they just don't seem to want that smoke, as people like to say now. And like I said, I don't just mean in defending Caitlin Clark, but just rallying around each other, around everyone, around all your teammates, having this us against the world mentality, understanding that you're not getting anything from the referees either, and using that as fuel, overcoming that, not being like, oh, woe is me. We can't do what we want to do because the referees aren't going to let us. There needs to be one goal for this team, a championship, and understanding nothing less than that is acceptable, and understanding that you're going to do whatever it takes to make that dream happen, to make that goal happen. I think part of the problem is cultural. Now, I know a lot of the players are gone, but like Kelsey Mitchell, for example, we get this Fever team, this Fever organization has been really bad for really long, like historically bad, like constantly getting top picks bad, like the way my Sixers used to do not all that long ago. I mean, come on, remember they couldn't get any other coach than Christy Sides. Although, to be fair, she's looking better and better with each passing game, I gotta say. But it was definitely a hopeless franchise. It was simply drifting along in this ocean of failure before Caitlin Clark arrived. She took what was nearly an identical team last year, an identical team from the year before, Caitlin Clark took that terrible, terrible team to the playoffs. Okay. It was a huge, huge improvement. Remember, this is a team that had Christie no take long twos, make a decision in half a second, go stand in the corner, Caitlin, start Christy Wallace, start KLS sides. Not to mention Melissa Smith and Erica Wheeler never passing to Caitlin. Notice that she's a completely different player this year, playing elsewhere without Caitlin. And I'm sorry, that is not Caitlin Clark holding back Erica Wheeler. There were some other issues there. I talked. I repeatedly warned everyone, and I know some of you all understood it too. So I'm not like lecturing you. I'm smarter and you didn't know. But I think we all know there were a lot of people that thought, okay, she got through her rookie year. It's going to ease off. And I said, yeah, it's not. It's going to get crazier. And it has gotten crazier. I said they were going to go after Caitlin Clark even harder. Well, welcome to the new Thunderdome. They're going out at her even harder. Of course, they're trying to destroy Caitlin Clark, anything they can to take away Caitlin Clark, whether it's separate her from her fan base or just do enough damage to her to run her out of the league. I think a lot of people have forgotten what a true, true cesspool the WNBA has been. I may actually do a deep dive video um, on Candace Wiggins sometime because that's a really interesting story for sure. Um, Look, Caitlin Clark spent the off season working hard and improving her game while all this other nonsense was going on. We were told the team added some much needed veteran pieces, championship experience, and how important that is for a young team. And yet they also lost key role players like Temi Fagmenley. Obviously, also a big coaching change. Personally, and I've said this before, I said it at the time, even though I did my best to be optimistic about what they were bringing. I also said, hold on, Natasha Howard, Dewana Bonner, they're older. Sydney Colson's older. She's never played more than a few minutes a game. These aren't the great additions we think they are. They could be subs, maybe, but I don't know that they can run with Caitlin Clark. And I've also said, I'm not one who believes in this whole, well, you need a bunch of vets in order to win. You need a bunch of players who had already won in order to win. Well, no, they had to win for the first time. And I know people can say, oh, well, they probably had vets. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes being young and dumb is the key to success in sports because you don't get that you're supposed to be nervous. You don't get that you're not supposed to win it, that you're supposed to go through all this other stuff first. Again, I will point you to the most recent example for me, the Philadelphia Eagles defense, best defense in the league by far. People talking about it, one of the great defenses of all time. It was the youngest defense in the NFL. Did they have a couple vets? Sure, but it was still the youngest defense in the NFL, even with those vets, whereas the Fever went from the youngest team in the league to one of the oldest teams in the league. Now let's talk about the mentality. This is a team that absolutely has to toughen up. Whistle or no whistle, and we all know they're not getting a whistle, but this team needs to continue to attack, continue to get to the basket, continue to play up tempo, force the referees to make calls when it becomes so bad. But if you ease off, you get frustrated, you change your game, that doesn't happen. They've got to learn to go to the basket, understand they're going to get whacked, understand they're going to get grabbed, understand they're going to get knocked around, and they got to finish anyway. That is just the reality of it. We need to see players, and I say this about Angel all the time. It drives me crazy that she gets so many rebounds, and this is not a knock on Angel, it's a knock on everyone else. There's no boxing out in the WA. Find I was going to say find your man. I'm sorry, that's the language. Everyone gets upset about that nowadays, but find whomever is your responsibility when the shot goes up, turn around, put a butt into them, and back them the hell up. It's not complicated. It's want to, and you just don't see it. Other than maybe Sophie or Lexi, they're not winning the 50-50 balls. Not enough of them anyway. They got to win more than they win. And it's got to be more than Lexi and Sophie. Now, to all of the brouhaha nonsense. Okay, look, we don't, because some people think, oh, well, You want them to stand up. You're advocating them throwing hands and getting in fights and getting kicked out all the time. No. But you also have to make a statement at some point and say, look, we're not going to be bullied. We're definitely not going to let you bully our star. We're definitely not going to let you bully the star of the whole damn league. So no, we don't need a brawl every game, but we certainly cannot make it acceptable or practically encourage attacks on Caitlin Clark. And I'm looking at everyone but Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull. Other teams, they're going to try on the court. They're going to try and mess with her off the court. They're rattling your superstar. They want to get your superstar frustrated, and the league is allowing it. Okay, so they're going to take advantage of it. The refs are allowing it, so they're going to take advantage of it. Unfortunately for Caitlin Clark, her teammates are allowing it. It should not get to Sophie having to retaliate and be the enforcer. Set the tone, clean, legal, hard screens, strong physical box outs, good physical defense. And I get there's a whistle problem there too, especially for AB. If opponents want to start something, if they want to get to Caitlin Clark, players have to be quick to get in between it. For example, in that Sun game, Marina Mabrey should have been set up after. I mean, she should have been knocked around right then and there instead of Natasha Howard trying to get into some foreplay on the court. She should have knocked Marina Mabrey on her butt, just done exactly the same thing to Mabrey because she was behind her that Mabrey had done to Clark. But even then, after that, Marina Mabrey should have been set up to run into a brick wall of a screen that would send her into concussion protocol. Okay? Run her into a screen. I think we all know we've seen hard screens before. We all know Caitlin Clark's introduction to the WNBA with I think it was that screen that she ruptured her eardrum on, right? And look, there was nothing wrong with the screen. Like that's the thing. That wasn't dirty. That was actually a good hard screen and they ran into it. That was her teammates not having Caitlin Clark's back and communicating to her that that screen was coming. But instead, we've got Howard caressing her because she was more worried about Mabry. We got Sydney Colson chatting her up and giving her a number after the game. I'm kidding on the number thing, but she definitely was friendly with her after the game. And look, man, I hate to say it, Steph White acolytes. Here we go. Here's where I get the unsubs again. But this team's out just flat out coached. This is a coach who's decided, look, here's what we really do well, and here's what I know gives us the best chance to win. But I want to do this other stuff instead that's not. It really is that simple. I mean, you've made it really easy for other teams to strategize how to play and beat the Fever. I mean, what the Valkyries did wasn't complicated. It actually annoyed me. It really annoyed me that the coach was coming out like talking like she made up some new thing about how you stop Caitlin Clark. That's absolute nonsense. The Fever game strategy is what stopped Caitlin Clark, and she missed shots. And look, again, that happens to the best of us. That happens to shooters all the time. That's just one of those things. But the Fever played into it and made it easy for the Valkyries with their absolute ridiculous strategy. And the Valkyries, again, like I was saying before about teams, they were 100% hardcore effort on both ends. And the Fever's defense, it's lackadaisical. There's a lack of effort in some of the players. There's no way in hell Natasha Howard ever should have been considered for Defensive Player of the Year. Uh, I mean, White wants this team to be a typical WNBA team that no one watches. She wants it to grind out a boring half court system with a poorly designed motion offense that doesn't emphasize Caitlin Clark. Oh, by the way, hey, have you noticed what the Phoenix Mercury have been doing? Have you noticed what Alyssa Thomas has been doing in Phoenix? And I mean, look, she is who she is. But in my sort of shout out here to Alyssa Thomas, she does not have to be a slow, half court, grinded out, physical type of player. I mean, she's always going to be a physical player, but she can play up tempo. It was Steph White who was reining her in. Turns out Alyssa Thomas can run. She should have left White a long time ago. Michaela Timpson, folks. Michaela Timpson has to play. Will she? No. Well, maybe with Dantas gone, she might. We'll see. Although those minutes will probably go to Bree Turner. Natasha Howard cannot start anymore. Natasha Howard cannot play much anymore. She's got to be a 10 to 15 minute a game player. And I know that makes the team short. Maybe it's time to make roster changes. I got a long message from one of the 19 asking about the season because they're very frustrated and upset and asking this and that. And I went through some things. I think I might probably turn that into a video. It's sort of like the Fever finally did the right thing and they hired me to come in and clean house and make all the decisions. And here's what I would do to fix this season. So we'll see if I get to that. But I definitely would love to see a trade or two before the deadline. I think they need to get younger and faster. God, I feel like I'm like, hey, they need to be the 24 Fever. Not exactly, right? I mean, I don't want Melissa Smith back. I don't want Christy Wallace back or KLS or Erica Wheeler, but I do think it's effective wise in terms of the youth and the way they played. Yeah, I want them to be a lot more like the post All Star, post Olympic break Fever of last year than the Fever I'm seeing. Um, Back to the Phoenix Mercury. I'll wrap this up soon, I promise. They unloaded a lot of stars, right? DT retired. They got rid of Griner. Natasha Cloud's gone. And now they are contenders much more so than they were with all those players. So here's the thing on that. Sometimes you have to just say, you know what? We have got to just. Uh, I was going to say things that I know. I just hit me that I know. Some people have told me YouTube doesn't like. They get it out of context. But you sometimes just have to say, you know what, we've got to break this up. Okay, I was going with another B word, BLOW. But sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes that is a risk that has to be taken and say, you know what, this isn't working. We don't want to give it any more time. We've just got to go in a completely different direction. That's what the Phoenix Mercury did. They went after youth. They went after athleticism. And they mixed and matched. They got players from overseas. And right now, the Fever and everything they've done is just way too old school, way too traditional WNBA, right? They're trying to run it back to a decade ago. So the front office is the front office that was a decade ago. The coach is a player for the Fever who coached, back in the day. She's very old school WNBA. We've got over the hill vets, we've got justice warriors. The whole thing's a lose. It is time. It is time to dump some contracts and simply reset. Right? That's the one thing with the WNBA that it kind of plays into the Fever advantage right now if they want to. As we've all talked about this, the WNBA does not do a good job of recognizing talent or allowing new talent to have a chance and to develop and to prosper. And so that means there are players out there that could really help. I mean, I'm kind of glad what happened with Ari McDonald has happened, not for her. I mean, she should catch on somewhere. But I think it's a great example right now in the forefront for all of us. Say, hey, you know what? See, the WNBA does have a problem because people say, oh, well, if Grace Berger, when I bring her up, if she was so good, she'd be on a team somewhere. Okay, well, you just saw the Ari McDonald situation. No one's picked her up. Now, maybe, I know, maybe she said, hey, I'm going to play with the Fever. But the point is, she was out of the league before the Fever got her. Yes? Right? There are players out there I'm sure are available if we have someone who recognizes talent and looks at it and is willing to give them a chance. Now, one last thing I want to roll with about Caitlin Clark's state of mind and what it might have been after that Sun game. Look, this is very mature, very intelligent, very well spoken, understands her place in everything that's going on. But Caitlin Clark is still a 23-year-old human being, a 23-year-old woman, and she has been subjected to nothing but relentless disgusting attacks on and off the court ever since she joined the WNBA. The lies from other players, the lies from the media, the mistreatment from the players, the mistreatment from the media, and the mistreatment from the WNBA, all the way from the top down, commissioners, owners. The fact that, I mean, look, yes, she never says anything, but do you really think Caitlin Clark is not smart enough to recognize that her teammates don't have her back? And she, I think, is just sucking it up and holding that in. I mean, that may be something she vents to like Lexi or she might vent to Sophie. But other than that, she's just doing her best to be the best teammate she can be to those people. And my probably she's trying to make the best of it in hopes that maybe they'll turn around. But you're damn sure, I'm damn sure that she knows that those teammates don't have her back. And so I think all of this may be getting to her at this point. And it might have been part of what we saw in the Valkyries game, especially, right? She probably got some time to talk to Kate Martin in person. Do you think those two, think if you're lucky enough to be one of those people that has like that friend, right? A lot of people have good friends, but I don't think everyone has the opportunity to have one of those friends that Caitlin Clark has with Kate Martin. Do you think in person that didn't all come out, right? So that may have been where her head was for that Valkyries game, about everything that's going on and about it getting to her a little bit. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's getting really, really long. Look, man, you can't stop Caitlin Clark, the player, not legally, but she can be stopped if you don't run the system. Or maybe I should say that the other way around. I guess you can stop her with everything that's going on and she can miss shots. But if you run the right way, if you play the right way and play the tempo, you're going to have a whole lot of trouble doing it. You're going to have a whole lot of trouble doing it. Unfortunately, the Fever have decided they're going to be the ones to stop Caitlin Clark before the other team does. If she doesn't come out like she does against the Liberty, they go right into that half court. Caitlin's not bringing the ball up type of stuff. And they lose when they do that. That's just the way it is. They flat out lose when they play that way. They get a lead. If Caitlin's playing well, they get a lead. They come into the second half. They do the slow down stuff. They put her off the ball and they blow the lead. There's a lot of coaching in this. Okay, a lot of this. I'm sorry, a lot of this is absolutely on Steph White. But I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for checking this out. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Hopefully this gets up in time, like before the game today on a Sunday, and we'll get to check that out. And I will talk to you later. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel.